camera, speeding.
Leah, camera A, take 1.
And then the last thing, you do it one more time, second stick, say marker.
Say marker before.
Right before you clap it.
Leah, camera A, take 1, marker.
Awesome. Because he'll just be scrolling through listening for marker. All right, and we are speeding and...
Hi, Leah. I'd like you to state your name and spell it for us, please.
Leah, L-E-A-H, Mayers, M-A-Y-E-R-S.
And could you give us a little background on where you lived,
Presently, I live in Andersonville. I've lived there a couple, maybe 2 years. I grew up in Hyde Park on the south side, and then left home early and lived around the city.
Great. Okay, I'd like to talk about your smartphone. And do you recall when you first got your first smartphone and your experiences? I'd like you to be able to elaborate on that.
I do recall when I got my first smartphone. I was going to Europe in 2012 and found that I suddenly couldn't make any reservations any other way. I couldn't do it online easily on a computer. I couldn't do things over the phone. Where I went to Norway, everyone was using cell phones, smartphones specifically. And my friends had them, and I really honestly felt pressured into it in order to be able to just do basic things.
And can you elaborate a little bit more on your frustration that you had at the time?
Yes, so my frustration largely was that, again, because I was going overseas and I was trying to buy train tickets from one city to the next. And everything was already set up for a smartphone. Everyone there had been using them for a long time, and I wasn't going to bring a laptop. I suppose I could have made reservations on a laptop, but I wasn't going to do that. So I bought a smartphone right before I went and really felt like just to do sort of basic things, make reservations, plan out, use maps. I really needed one to get along.
Did you feel a little pressured by your peers to join the group?
I felt very pressured, not to feel like I belonged or to join in necessarily, but people had them. That's the way they were communicating. I had a flip phone for over 10 years. I loved it. But it really, it was heavily pixelated. I couldn't see it very well. I couldn't get the internet on it. And I really think that with the loss of payphones and the ubiquitousness of the internet, I really felt like I had to have one.
And what are some of your joys? What do you love about the smartphone, and what don't you like about it, if you could elaborate on that?
Sure. What I really like about the smartphone, one is that I have very poor sense of direction, and it was very frustrating for me and my family and everyone I was with. It was very hard for me to drive anywhere or even walk around the neighborhood, as ridiculous as that sounds. And I know how to read a paper map, but to walk around your own city holding a paper map was unpleasant for a lot of reasons. And so some basic tasks, the smartphone made it much easier and really was worth it to me for that. So those were good things. I have friends that live all over the country, and I'd like to keep those relationships up when I don't see them. And so being able to email and text, I found very good for actually keeping relationships alive.
Do you have any frustrations with your smartphone?
Yeah, I do have frustrations about the smartphone, and I think a lot of it really stems from my own inability to control my smartphone use. I am very capable of going down the black hole. I read a lot on the smartphone, and I love reading, and I'm a bookmaker by trade, but I find that my attention span is much shorter. I find that even if I think I'm just looking up an article that I want to read, 2 hours later, I've read the background of the guy who wrote it, and then it's a hole for me. One thing leads to another, and then maybe 2 hours later I'm really not any more informed or entertained.
Do you have any special features that you like on the smartphone or any special apps?
Okay, I just wanted to just hold you back. What I did was I noticed she was using her hands,
Okay.
and they were just basically coming into the bottom of the frame. So I widened out because it's a very expressive thing, and I want to have that.
Right.
A lot of people don't.
Sure.
So I just widened out a little bit so that we can get that, because I think it's important. So I just want to move along.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. I have some apps on my phone. I don't use social media for the most part, so it's not that kind of thing. I have a lot of newspapers and journals that I read. The maps, again, I mentioned that. Trying to think, I text, I email, I do a lot of research. I do one, I guess it's social media. I have one Instagram account that's private with a few people that we have an art group, but we make art in person. It's not like computer art, and then we share a piece a day. And again, it's communicating with friends, but it's also we're all making our work, and we just use really the cell phone Instagram app to take a picture of what we're making in our studios.
Do you ever go out to?
I want to stop you
Yeah.
because there's a piece that she said that I would definitely follow up on.
Okay.
Does anyone know what she said that I think needs to be followed up? Anybody?
What are they making on their phones?
No.
Wait.
With social media?
No. She said, I sometimes go down the black hole.
Oh, earlier, yeah.
Okay? And I want to know, I am so curious, what does it mean to go down the black hole?
I did catch that. Yes.
You missed it, right? You didn't.
No, I did catch it, but
caught
yes,
but
I was.
I think he was
I
trying to
did
move
catch-
it along.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
okay,
I-
okay.
I know you caught it.
Right.
We did this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that dark hole
Yes.
description?
Yes. Well, I love to read, and I'm very much a researcher, sort of by nature. I probably should have been a librarian, but I'm also a political junkie for maybe I see that as a benefit before the current administration, but at the moment I can be very obsessed with the latest scandal that's come out. For me, the rabbit hole or the black hole can involve reading something.
Somebody's calling you. Pick it up. It'll be a good part.
No one's calling me.
Oh, your phone just went off.
Yeah, I think the light just went on.
Bring it up into the frame while you Did somebody just call you?
No, I think it's a text, and then the phone turns on. The light. Would you like me to read you my text?
Yes.
My brother, who was an FBI agent and from Chicago but hasn't lived here in a long time, writes me a text that says, "You do know that tomorrow is the Mooks High Holiday." And he's making fun of St. Patrick's Day. Let's see who else has written me. I'm going to a friend's house tonight, and she says, "I'm going to cook us a nice meal for dinner." So, important, not interesting, but I know I'll be eating, and I don't have to pick up any food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put
Is
it
that-
down. Yeah, no, I was just,
it was
I just
great.
thought it would be a nice interview,
No one calls me.
Right?
Except my mother, and I wouldn't pick it up. Now, the black hole.
Yes.
So for me, the black hole these days very much is, I feel like it's sort of an inability to control myself from responding mainly to politics. So something will happen, as it 5 tragedies a day or problems with the government, right? Something will happen, and I'll read about it, and rather than stopping after I've read about it, I'll then say, what is the New York Times saying? What is the Guardian saying? It's the same story, but I tend to have that, I have that tendency to continue to go down, to read about the same thing. It's frustrating to me.
Do you feel that the smartphone gives you more a sense of urgency in your life? And those issues with politics?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what I would do. I don't have regular TV. I guess before the smartphone, I would watch the nightly news, probably, and get all that stuff, get all those details of what was happening in the moment. On the other hand, it's the news I'm going to get online is more nuanced, and it's different levels of sort of intensity, and it tends to be better, I guess, than a nightly news story might be about the same event.
How do you see the pros and cons of the future with the smartphone.
I feel like it is very hard for me to predict in general what is going to happen. I am not sure I would have at any time, maybe when I first got my smartphone, thought that anything that's happening now would happen. I feel that it's sort of easy for me to ignore a lot of what's happening in sort of contemporary society. I am worried about kids. I was a teacher, and I have friends that are of different ages who family gatherings, and they're not present. And I know I have friends my own age who have gotten on Facebook and trying to rekindle with old friends from high school, and that's been pleasant, but it's also been, I see that they also have some depression, I think. You know, someone isn't responding immediately. They're not getting that dopamine hit. I think we're getting used to that, and I do see that as a problem, I think. I worry about it. I also know an 11-year-old who goes to a screen-free camp every summer, and he loves it. And I hear that story, and I think, okay, you know, maybe as the smartphone and technology use rises and gets maybe more invasive, perhaps there'll be some kind of Luddite resurgence, or just like with vinyl or anything else that's old-fashioned, that people will also be more interested in interacting face-to-face.
Do you have any other stories that are personal to you that relate to the smartphone that you'd like to add?
Personal story. I fantasize about it getting lost and the mixed feelings I'll have of panic and also maybe some freedom, some liberation. I probably think about that more often than I should. I also try not to keep anything on the phone where I'd really be bereft and freaked out if it got lost or broken. I still use a paper calendar.
Do you have any concern of Big Brother, you know, being able to track you around?
Besides my own big brother, who's an FBI agent.
Right.
I really feel like regarding the Big Brother and the government and all that, I feel like that ship has sailed. I think we can make ourselves more vulnerable. You know, sort of putting social security numbers and credit cards online. People who put things about their young children online often, you know, it's very easy to see all that. I take some basic precautions. I think anyone can breach anything and probably will. I think maybe my main concern today, whether it's valid or not, is that we hear about much more cyber crime. Could the grid go out? Could the water supply be poisoned and cut off? If the GPS and the cell phones are rendered completely useless to us, I don't think that's so far off of an idea. I think that could happen.
Thank you. I think that's great.
Now let's ask the standard question: is there anything you'd like to add?
Okay. I thought that
You
was.
kind of
but-
did. At the
Yeah.
end.
Oh, I guess that
felt
was. I guess
Was
that
that?
was right. You said another story. Can you tell me one more story?
Yeah.
And then now I'd be like, is there anything that you'd like to add that you don't feel like was said?
Well, yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to a summation of?
No, you're not asking her to summary. She can
Oh.
say no. There's nothing more.
Okay.
You just ask.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Thoughts?
Yes, it's such a weird thing to say. I think I have this sense that, like, I'm kind of glad that I won't be alive to see so many crazy things happening in many decades, and maybe that speaks to me thinking things aren't going to be so good. On the other hand, like most people, I probably, like, what is going to happen, and I'm not going to see it. And so, you know, I wonder about that. I would like to see into the future a little bit.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And cut.
Good.
And cut.